Welcome to Write This Down with Maddy Birdcage. As a global marketing advisory founder, a business educator, and psychology-informed strategist with a full family life and an addiction to luxury travel, I'm here to let you into the inner workings of my businesses, my family life, and my mind to show you how to live the good life. Each episode, I promise to give you practical takeaways you can take action on right away to get you closer to being that calm, growth-focused CEO in control of your business, your marketing, and your life. So make sure you write this down. Welcome back to Write This Down with Maddy Birdcage. Yes, I've been on a small break while I was off in Thredbo with my family, but today is a very special episode because if you are a marketer or a creative business owner at the freelancer stage, maybe with a couple of contractors, maybe one or two employees, and you can feel that you are either about to break through or burn out, this episode is exactly for you. Today, I'm going to show you how to stop doing marketing and just being another marketer and start building a marketing business that pays you properly, that respects your time, and that gives you the freedom to live a bigger, good life, kids, travel, sanity included. You are going to hear my story from the last 10 years of Birdcage, unfiltered, because all of these stages matter. And I'm sure you are going through a lot of these yourself. And as you listen, just notice the moments that mirror your own stage. And then when something hits, really let that land, because that feeling is a clue into where you are now and what needs to happen next. So in this episode, I'm going to give you the exact agency framework that shapes what we do and how we do it, and how we manage to thrive even at a time where a lot of marketers and creative businesses and freelancers are stalling. I'm seeing so many Facebook posts about this in business groups at the moment. So be ready to write that information down. It's very important. I'm also going to be talking about something very important at the end of this episode. It's a massive, massive offer that I want to give to you if you feel like, Maddie, you've spoken to my soul and you are the person that will be able to fix all the shit that I'm going through right now, because we are in the process of finalizing some extra bonuses like standard operating procedures for marketing businesses, ChatGPT prompts, and I'm talking serious good ones, hiring guides, sales workflows. All of these things are designed to make serious marketers get to $1 million plus per year in a way that is real, repeatable, and you won't hate your life. So if you are the kind of person who likes to take decisive action, you will want to be ready, so make sure you stay to the end. What I've noticed, there is this gap at being good at marketing and then building a business that markets itself. This gap, this is filled with psychology, systems, and leadership, something that I did not know about when I started my business 10 years ago. And I wish someone like me had told me earlier the things that I was missing. It would have saved a lot of heartache. Because 10 years ago, I landed in Mackay, Queensland. I didn't know a soul. I'd moved from Sydney. I'd walked away from Sydney agency life, one of those dream jobs that was really just a factory for burnout. It was long hours, toxic culture, everyone competing instead of collaborating. And at the time, it did feel normal. Now I would call that just pure survival. After I moved to Mackay, I took the first job I could find up here, and I'll never forget my first day at that agency. Lunchtime came and I called my mum in tears because I just felt like, why am I not doing this for myself? Because deep down, I knew that I could, and instead I was too scared to take that leap, and I just thought I had to get a job. But 7 months into that role, I fell pregnant. I had extreme morning sickness. I also had a type 1 diabetes diagnosis, which is a lifelong condition. My anxiety was running wild. My mum, in her very blunt German wisdom, said, why don't you just work for yourself? And so I did. I dusted off the business name that I'd registered years earlier, which was Birdcage Marketing. I slapped together a Wix website and decided this is it. And it started pretty shit because my old bosses were actually furious and called me out on what I was doing. But at that moment, I set a vow that I would never be that kind of boss. I had seen fear-driven culture, the competitiveness, the guilt if you took a sick day, and I swore that my business will not be run on that, which is insightful at the time, because when you build a business, you are not just designing services or selling packages, you're actually designing a culture. And culture is a system. If you don't design it intentionally, your old wounds or what you think is normal will. In those early days, back in 2015, clients came, even though I was heavily pregnant. I was then up all night with a new baby and working all day. Sleep, it was a luxury I didn't get. My husband and I were completely on the edge. We didn't know how to navigate this new world of me working, but also us having a new baby. And prior to that point, we had always prioritized his job, and that's why we actually moved to Queensland in the first place. But even when I was at those fleeting first mothers groups, I looked around and I knew that a different kind of pain would have met me if I'd chosen a long, empty maternity leave. So instead of that, I chose the pressure of business, promising myself that I would figure it out and it would be worth it. And within months, I'd replaced my old employed income, which was about $60K a year back then. And I set myself a very private, personal goal to out-earn my husband. Not out of spite, not as a game, but as proof. Proof that what I was doing was real. He was earning about $140K at the time, which was like a really big goal for us. And 1 month, probably a year in, I made it. And I posted an Instagram story celebrating it. And it didn't go down well with him. He felt really hurt. I felt really misunderstood. None of us were necessarily wrong. We just hadn't had the conversation about what money meant to each of us and why I was chasing that goal, which of course now he understands. I was making good money, but I was doing 16-hour days fueled by pure adrenaline. And then when this adrenaline wore out a few years later, I slipped into this 9 months of burnout where instead of working 16 hours a day, I was sleeping 16 hours a day. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, but I'm like, I can't even show up to meetings. I would miss meetings with clients. The only reason the business didn't completely fall apart was because Jess, who was my creative director for 8 years, she picked up the pieces as best she could, but she also had young kids at home. I wasn't getting paid for a few months, and then I think that year I probably made $45K as a salary. But I want to ask you, while you're listening right now, scanning your own workload, where are you paying for revenue with your health, your marriage, your time with your kids, or your mind? Because it's such a common thing that I see with so many freelancers, especially in those early stages. So I just want you to be aware of it. You don't need to fix it right away, but be aware. So then in the midst of burnout came baby number 2, Adelaide. And suddenly I had a deadline, and the memory from Forrest's, my first newborn stage, was still burnt into me, the trauma, the exhaustion, the lack of boundaries. And this time I had about 8 months to get my shit together. Well, actually it was 6.5 in the end because she arrived early, but I had to make the business fit the life I wanted. With Adelaide, I was able to take a couple months off, but clients, they didn't care that I had a newborn. They still demanded calls with me, even though Jess was handling it. And when I finally enforced a boundary with these, some client relationships ended really badly. And that's where I first started to learn that boundaries in business really matter, especially if you are in a service business. And I want to be really clear, I was an absolute people pleaser. I hated conflict. I hated setting boundaries with clients, with staff. But I soon learned that if you don't set those boundaries and feel that initial discomfort with that hard conversation, it will lead to destruction later. Because as we grew, we did scale to $1 million in revenue. We were still working out of my granny flat. And if you are watching this on YouTube, I'm going to add some photos of what that office looked like. I think this was around 2018. We hosted our first business event and we started to get a lot more known in the area. We had a team of 8 at the time. And that is the pivotal point where I then bought the warehouse that we converted into our studio. Around that time, I think that was probably 2019, that's when COVID obviously hit. People were staying home a lot more. People lost their jobs, unfortunately, but it allowed them to start their own businesses. E-commerce was absolutely thriving. And so it created this perfect storm, which I like to call the golden age of e-commerce, and when Facebook ads were literally magic for businesses. At that time, I also sold an investment property and we cleared $1 million in profit, which was a huge goal for us. That allowed us to pay off our home. I bought my dream car. I was able to do a huge $200,000 renovation on the studio and make it what it is now. And I also started investing in shares at that time. So I feel like that's when my financial literacy started to increase. Just after that is when we started landing clients that were paying us 25 grand a month, more than just one. And it meant that we got to grow the team to, I think there was 14 of us at that time. It felt like my vision board was really coming to life. This was also when I started doing some mindset work. And so I thought like, oh my God, all of this shit is actually working. But then by 2021, on my birthday, with everything I thought I wanted, I realized I completely hated it. And then within 1 week, both of our 25K retainers vanished. One client left with a contractor and an ex-staff member that got together. Another client dropped us because the marketing manager we were working with threw us under the bus with the business owner and she just pulled the plug. Not just that, but the shares I invested in completely tanked. 100K gone. And if you want to add fuel to that fire, this is when Facebook ads changed as well, where Apple stopped allowing us to really track what was happening. And so a lot of our e-commerce brands, which we were really ads focused at the time, they were getting very nervous. And it feels like the shift happened overnight and our clients were panicking. The world had also reopened and that meant that online shopping was slowing down. And so we needed to pivot at that point to figure out how the hell I was going to keep my 14 staff employed, how the hell I was going to keep going. So what we did, we built this hybrid program back then, which was called the mentorship. It was half coaching, half done for you, and it got results. I probably don't give that program enough credit, but at the time I could really feel the missing pieces. We needed more psychology, more structure, more depth. We needed to leverage funnels better. But when I pushed for that, basically everyone told me that I was just overthinking it. And why would I bother trying to push it when it was working okay? I became obsessed with making money, not because of ego, but because I had 14 staff to pay. And then one day, in our anonymous suggestion box that we had, I got a note come through that said, "We're sick of the constant talk of redundancies. It feels like empty threats." And so what did I do? I didn't go and address this directly. Instead, I was like, oh, how can I make people happier? I bought a treadmill for the office. I started paying for their psychology appointments. And I was saying yes to red flag clients because we needed the money. These were people that were swearing at my team, hanging up on the phone to them, haggling on price, demanding miracles without any input from them. I'm sure you guys all know this type of client, but the problem is when you have pressure, financial pressure, you ignore those red flags and you just say yes to any job that comes through because you are in survival mode. That's when I sort of learnt that systems remove cash pressure. Your sales pipeline is a system. The way that you position yourself is a system. Your boundaries, they are all systems that you need to put in place. Because when you have money coming into your business, you have the freedom to say yes or no to clients, to hire and fire staff if they are great or if they're not performing. And it gives you flexibility and power to own what you're doing. But I was still in pure people-pleasing mode. I had these intuitive hits about what we need to be doing next. The reality was, even though I was starting to realize a lot of things, a lot of hard lessons to learn, I was still in pure people-pleasing mode and I wasn't paying myself and we were just falling more and more into debt and my health was out of control. I was 30 kilos heavier than what I am now. And with autoimmune diseases, that's not a safe place to be. So one morning in October, something snapped and I walked in and I let go of more than half my team. And what that did that day, I didn't think I could do it, by the way. My husband didn't think I could do it either. But something just came over me where I was like, I've had enough. Living this way, it clearly wasn't working on any level. Everything was falling apart. And so a new version of me was essentially born. And I did also take radical responsibility. If I was living the wrong story, it was because I had written it. So I had to choose a better story. And here's the thing, when you take the wheel, when you start writing your own story, the gods, the universe, whoever doesn't shower you with confetti and it instantly everything changes. The changes happen slowly, but it's like a tide turning. And that day in October is when the tide turned. By January, I developed and then launched my very first program, which was the digital marketing certificate. And I was terrified. I hadn't felt that kind of fear in a really long time. I launched that program, 8 students enrolled. I only wanted 4, and it was a complete success. I went on to coach a lot of them one-on-one for almost a year, actually. I taught my marketing in the way that it lives in my brain, through psychology, through systems. Those were the founding pillars you can now see matured and brought to life inside the full library. And the frameworks that we use today with our clients, that they pay us up to 100K for a couple months of work for. And then later that year, we fully launched Birdcage Marketing School because brands were calling out for our system as well. We had a 100K launch weekend when all I wanted was to sell 10 courses. And then within 12 months, I'd managed to pay off our entire 100K tax debt. But that month as well, we posted a 90K profit month. That's profit after staff, after overheads, after debt. And what that meant for me was that if I just listen to myself and if I just do things the way that I know they should be done, that's when things work. When you have deep insight about what you're trying to do and then you put a system behind it, that's how you overcome the idea of you need to constantly be motivated, or this idea that no one else can do it as well as you, or the problem where you're like, I just don't know what to do today because I've had 2 hours sleep with a new baby. If you have your systems, it cancels out all of those other things. But right now, what I want you to ask yourself is, with your next hire or with your desire to outsource something, are you outsourcing the responsibility, or are you outsourcing and giving them a system so that you can still be in control? Because if you are outsourcing the responsibility, it's not going to work unless you have a system that allows you to pinpoint exactly where money leaks are happening or where things could be done better. So if I look back on my story on what I did right and what I did wrong, I want to be brutally honest. This is where freelancers, small studios or agencies, they either evolve or they stall. And I'm going to keep this really clean and practical for you. So this is the list of all the things that I did wrong. I sprinted without systems. I let my adrenaline masquerade as strategy. And I want to ask you, where do you think you are mistaking speed for scale? So that just means I was always so hell-bent on hiring more and more people because I wanted to be like, oh, we are such a successful big business. But in doing so, the right move would have actually been to solidify the systems the way I wanted them done, and then not worry on how many people I was hiring, but hiring the right people that could implement those systems. And something that we've been doing for our brand clients that I want to bring across to our marketing freelancer clients as well is giving you guys the right questions to ask in the interview stage, even how to write your job ad to make sure you're attracting the right people. The next thing that I was doing was avoiding conflict at all costs. I didn't embrace boundaries early, and I realized that every shitstorm in my business was a result of not having a hard conversation earlier. And so now if things are not feeling right or things aren't working, or I see someone's struggling or I'm struggling with something, the most important thing to do is have a really open, honest conversation as early as you possibly can. And usually things can be fixed. And if they can't, then that person needs to move on. What I want to ask you to do is just enforce a boundary this week, even a small one, even if it's just not replying to emails after hours, for example. Another mistake that I made was offering guarantees or offering services without clear expectations of client input. I would take on clients that were like, please run my Facebook ads for me to grow my business. And I was like, okay, expecting them to be part of that process and still be showing up on their socials and doing emails and having a decent website, which of course many brands don't know these things and they're not doing those things. And I was scared to say to them, I don't think we can run these ads until you fix your website, because I was scared I was going to lose that sale. And whilst you might close that sale today, in the end, that sale will probably cost you a lot more money when the ads don't work because the landing pages aren't set up properly. Or when they come to you saying, you said that you could get me this result and we haven't gotten it. And I should have actually been saying that whole time, this is what I can do, this is what I need you to do in order to get to this result. And that's why when we mentor and teach other marketers, setting client expectations at that first call together, that first sales call is so, so important. And it's not going to kill your sale. It's going to kill the sale with the wrong clients and strengthen the relationship with good clients. Another thing I did wrong was hiring to fix problems or throwing money at something to fix problems. So I would join really expensive masterminds or courses that were like business courses that actually had no understanding of how a creative agency, how a marketing agency works, how a mother or how a parent in business needs to work. And they were just giving me really not great advice. Another big mistake was ignoring the numbers. Hope is not cash flow. And when I speak to so many of you, especially marketing business owners, you might be able to tell me, oh yeah, I'm going to be billing this much this month. If you're lucky, I didn't even know how to do that back in the day. I had no forecasting process. I had no idea where my next client was coming from. But it's not enough just to know where your top line is sitting. You actually need to understand cash flow, and you need to understand what your overheads are, and you need to understand how to pull those overheads down at times. And you need to know when there might be times in your business where, okay, you need to take a pay cut because you're in growth stage, and that is totally okay. So reflect right now. Do you have a spreadsheet that's like, this is what I'm going to make this month. This is what my outgoings are going to be this month. This is how much profit I've got at the end of the month. And if you do, does that go for a full 12 months? And this is one of the templates that we're actually building into Birdcage Certified. It is forecasting and financial management, because without positive cash flow in any business, it dies. Now, enough about all the things I did wrong, and I'm sure I could mention 100 more, but these are the things that I did right and that I would love for you to start implementing into your own marketing business. Focused on psychology and then turn them into systems. Strategy first, then the execution. No deliverables without a diagnosis first. I want you to stop just running campaigns for your clients because they say, hey, I need some social media help. And then you rock up a week later with your camera ready to film, and then you create their content and the content just fails. You are shooting yourself in the foot by not doing a strategy first. And by the way, you should be charging for that strategy first. Another thing I see a lot of you doing is basically doing the bare bones of a strategy in your proposals. I used to do the same thing. But you should be charging for that time, and you should be doing it properly in a way that absolutely works by using psychology. Psychology is the study of the human brain. Marketing is the process of convincing the human brain to buy something. So why are not all marketers using psychology? It blows my mind that people think they can do marketing without psychology. The next thing I did was build a signature way of working. You must be known for how you work, not just what you sell. The next thing I did right was I took radical responsibility. I ruthlessly cut the wrong clients. When we were already in the hole, I was like, fuck this, let's just cut all of the wrong clients that are taking up all of our time, because as we know, not all client dollars are valued the same. And when you cut the wrong clients, the wrong team members, the wrong habits, that's when the right ones appear. Another thing that I did right was I layered wealth. I know I said that I lost 100 grand on a very bad stock investment. And so that was an expensive lesson in how not to invest in shares. And we've since completely pivoted and diversified how we invest in the stock market. But we also really focus on property investments. And now we've also diversified into starting up another business alongside my husband. And so now we have multiple revenue streams coming through. The reason why diversity is important is because not everything works all the time at the same time. But if you are reliant on one single source of income, that is fucking stressful. And when that gets stressful, you go into fight or flight or freeze mode, you go into survival mode, and you start making some really bad decisions and you continue to spiral downwards. If you have diversified income streams, I'm not saying you need to invest 100K in the stock market, but even $20 a week into a diversified portfolio like index funds, that is going to pay off in the long run, especially if you're still young. Another thing that I think I did really right was I integrated family and the business. So we run our home life like a company these days. And now that my kids are getting older, they are 5 and 9, I'm really getting them involved in the business decisions that we're making as well. I don't hide from them if, we're having a bad sales month and we need to get some clients coming through. I actually have so many videos on my phone of my 9-year-old giving me ideas for content and ads that I should be running to promote our programs. And I'm so proud of him for that because he's thinking like an entrepreneur. But it's also about understanding where can you distribute the household load. In the early days of my business, it was a real challenge for us to shift from me being the one who cooks, the one who cleans, who does the grocery run, all of that kind of stuff, which was easy to do before we had kids. But once we had kids, once I had a business to run, I needed to rely on my husband more. And I think there is still so much expectation on the female especially to carry the household load, the mental load, being the default parent. If you are a woman and you are trying to scale a business, or if you're a man and you're trying to scale a business, you need to have support from your partner. Or if you don't have a partner, you need support from other sources, from extended family, from friends. You need to find a network. Can you get together with some friends and figure out who cooks dinner that night? If you're making good money in your business, what can you outsource so that you can focus on the business? We now don't actually outsource a lot in our household anymore because being at home and looking after my home, cleaning my own car, that is stuff that I actually really enjoy doing, and I call it like blank space time. But there was a time when I was really working hard to scale the business and I had to focus in on it, that we had a cleaner, we had a gardener, someone who washes the car, someone who does our laundry. Literally anything I could outsource that wasn't business related, I did. So ask yourself right now, is there something that you can outsource in your life, even as simple as online grocery ordering? That is something I still do, and it saves me hours each week. Okay, so now I want to teach you the practical architecture and systems that I teach and that I use so that you can audit your marketing business today and figure out where you're at and what needs to change in order for you to make more money, have more time, or just feel better and more free in your business, because that's why you started it, right? So the first thing, do you have a strong positioning and a strong message that you are sharing on your socials in your marketing no matter what? Who are your audiences? What do they desire? What do they avoid? And then your offer needs to reflect that, so it gives them exactly that. Your offer needs to be underpinned by a signature process. Name it, stage it, diagram it, make it brandable. All of these things, this is the first thing that we do when we coach our marketing business clients. We talk about their positioning, we talk about their offers, and we talk about what their signature approach is. Because that's all you should be talking about in your socials, in your marketing, in your ads, in your emails. The next thing we need to look at is your sales pipeline. So you need to have a very clear and easy system that allows you to show up on social media every single day and that leads people through to a step 1 offer. So that is a lead magnet that matches your signature approach. It guides them through that path to purchase, to seeing you online, to then wanting to take that first step with you, and then eventually to becoming a paying customer. That is how a funnel works. It is a path to purchase. Then once you have this path to purchase in place, you need to have a very clear understanding of who a red flag client is and who a dream client is. And your systems and your automations and your booking calendars and your emails that you send people and your proposals and your pitch decks, all of these things, they need to very clearly filter out the red flag clients and very clearly attract the dream clients. And please, please, please have a solid client agreement, solid employee contracts, all of these things that we provide inside Birdcage Certified. You need them in your business to protect yourself. And it also works as a great filtering tool, because if someone doesn't like your terms, then they can leave. Next is your operations. You need standard operating procedures for discovery, for creative, for delivery, quality assurance, for measuring, for reporting, so that you can show the people that you're working for the great work that you are doing. You need weekly meetings, you need monthly reviews, you need quarterly strategy reviews for your own business, but also for your clients. This is something that we have literally worked probably the last 5 years on getting absolutely perfect. Because what we're actually doing, we're going to put templated standard operating procedures into Birdcage Certified for you. But if you want to join us as a one-on-one client, we will actually write these based on you and your business specifically. The other thing to focus on with these standard procedures is the tech that you have to manage these processes, to make sure all of these things happen. I always say that after people in a marketing business, tech and subscriptions and software is your next biggest cost. It is so easy to just let that get out of control. You also need people that you can trust to actually deliver the work that you're going to sell. Right now, I'm sure that you are in the stage of selling and doing a lot of the work, and that is totally fine. That is where we all start. But as you are doing the work, this should all be documented and templatized. The goal should be that you are not doing this forever and you are simply setting these things up in order to hire someone to then take it over and then do it as good as you can do it, because they are following a system. I also really want you to focus on culture, on building a culture where there is one source of truth, there's written notes, there's praise in public, critique in private, all of these rules that I teach. Just right now, I want you to picture the relief when you are either handing over to your existing team or a new team member you're onboarding, and they know so clearly what your expectations are, because quite often I think the downfall happens when you hand over or delegate to your team. It's not that they want to do a bad job on purpose. It's simply that you haven't shown them what success looks like for you, and you haven't given them the chance to be successful. The next pillar, profit. You need to understand where your break-even point is. You need clear payment terms. You need late fees that actually bite, so people pay on time. You need to understand how your finances are tracking, where you need to put money away, where you can spend a bit more, and you probably need to raise your prices. At Birdcage Angel Advisors, we install proven, science-driven marketing systems directly into your business. We believe the best results come when a brand has clarity and clear systems to execute their marketing from inside the business. And right now, we're accepting new strategy, advisory, and branding clients. If you're ready to unhire your agency, ghost your coach, and hire an angel instead, book your free client assessment call at birdcageangeladvisors.com or link in the show notes. Finally, the last pillar is personal. Now, the non-negotiables I have for myself are movement, sleep, creative play. And then you need to schedule in CEO times, at least 2 hours a week, to be in the numbers and focusing on the narrative that you are sharing online. Show me what your calendar looks like and I'll show you what your next 3 years look like. If your calendar looks like what mine used to look like, which is all about doing things for other people, other brands, not looking after my own money, my own business, or my own energy, that is when things fell apart. And that is what we help you break through when you're in this weird stage where you probably can't hire someone full-time yet to take the reins, and even if you do, then they don't seem to understand it and it just becomes a huge mess and you feel like, oh, it's just easier to do it myself. And now I want to pause here for especially parents listening. Sometimes it feels like you have to pick. Do I chase my ambition and my business goals, or do I focus on my family? I want you to realize they're not opposites. They can actually move in the same direction if you set things up right. Think of it like 2 streams of water flowing into one river. But that only works if you build the riverbanks to guide it. So here's a reality that you probably don't think can happen, but I've seen it happen time and time again. If you take the right action and you use the right systems, you can completely change your business in just 8 weeks. Yes, it took me 10 years to get to this point, but what I've been able to do is package all of that up into an 8-week program, which is what Birdcage Certified is, which means you get to benefit from all the messy mistakes that I've made over a decade of being in business. And instead, you just get a clear trajectory to where you want to go. Money actually doesn't fix things. If your systems are messy, more money just makes the mess bigger. Imagine pouring water into a bucket full of holes. It doesn't matter how much you pour in, it will eventually just keep leaking out. And that's what's going to happen in your business when you don't have the right systems to keep the money in the bucket, to keep the water in the bucket. So instead, picture the opposite. Your business grows, your income goes up, but your workload doesn't. That is not a fantasy. That is what I've really been focusing on, especially the last 18 months. And it's what happens when you price yourself properly, you package your offers into clear levels, and you stick to your boundaries with clients, and you just look after your health. This is not a course for chiropractors, for beauty therapists, even for accountants. It is a program for marketing business owners. And that's why I can very comfortably sit here and say that your business can be transformed in 8 weeks, because I know exactly what buttons to push and what levers to pull in order to make that change happen. This program, it's not just theory, it's a guided path where we build your marketing system step by step. There is feedback and accountability included from us. You're not just doing a course on your own. You are able to get feedback until it's actually running inside your business. So by the end of those 8 weeks, you don't just know more about marketing. Yes, strategy and education, all of that is part of it, but you'll actually have a signature process mapped, branded, and packaged. You'll have your funnel strategy installed and working in your business. You'll have your offers priced and structured so they protect your profit, and you'll have a sales pipeline filling your calendar with the right clients where even if you are the shittest salesperson in the world, they will still sign. You'll also have delivery systems and boundaries so that you and your team's time are respected, and a personal operating system that keeps you thriving and your energy super, super high. That is so important. But here is the part that makes Birdcage Certified different. Alongside this 8-week sprint, you also get 12 months of the full library, which is our flagship program for all types of brands. I want you to think of Birdcage Certified as the accelerator, the part that gets you moving fast because it's specifically for marketing businesses and changes your day-to-day in just a couple of months. But the full library, that is the deep dive. That is a resource you can tap into at any time over the year when you want to go further with your marketing education in strategy, in funnels, in execution across paid ads, social, email, websites. So you're not just finishing that 8 weeks with momentum, you're finishing with mastery and a system that you can keep building long after the program ends. So if you take anything away from this, Birdcage Certified is not about learning more. It is about walking away with a marketing business that finally freaking works. And when you imagine yourself inside the program, I want you to notice the one part of your business that finally feels handled. What would that be for you? Your financials, your processes, your people, your sales pipeline. What is that? That is what needs to be fixed as quickly as possible, and that is your reason to join us. Now, I know what's probably running through your head right now because I promise you I have heard it all before. And honestly, I have actually said a lot of these things to myself too. And it reminds me that moment years ago when I was terrified to launch the digital marketing certificate. It was a really scary step for me. I was ready to back out and it felt too soon, too risky. And then that staff member pushed me in order to do the thing that scared me the most. Fear should be your guide. If you are scared to invest in this next step, good. That's the decision that's going to change your life. Because the only thing standing between you and your business is deciding just to back yourself and just to take that chance to jump off that cliff and build that parachute. If you're saying, I don't have time, my friend, you do not have time not to do this, because every week you delay, you're going to be bleeding more money through scope creep, through underpricing, through chaotic delivery. Birdcage Certified, it is built for full lives. It is built for parents, especially. If you feel like I'm not ready in my business, I want to just try this the next few months, see how it goes. If you've even got 1 or 2 clients and you care about the results you're getting for them, you are ready. This is the work that makes you ready and it stops you from making all those messy mistakes. If the concern is money, I totally get it because, as I said, I've been in huge amounts of debts before. But the cost of staying stuck is far worse than any tiny investment that you're going to make in a program. This is the same system I'm teaching you that gets brands to pay me $100K to build strategy and set up their campaigns and then hand it over in a couple months. Most of our clients, they sign new clients within the first 1 or 2 weeks of working with us and working through our program. It happens that quickly. If you are already in another program, perfect, keep it. Birdcage certified, this isn't a tactic or a trend, it's an operating system. So whatever else you are doing, it will probably plug into this because it's probably a broader program. So the question is, are you happy to just keep patching holes, to just keep guessing your way along, to just keep struggling through what you're dealing with? Or are you going to take the action that I should have taken years ago and back myself? Start building the business you've been wanting to build, but you tell yourself you're not ready for. So here's where we land. Birdcage certified, it's open right now, ready for you to get started, where we are helping you build step by step the system that your business has been missing. And it doesn't stop there. You'll also have 12 months inside the full library to go deep into any area that we teach, whether that's strategy, social media, paid ads, including Pinterest ads, by the way, that's an undercover one, email marketing, website optimization, all of those things. And we also have voice note and email support through that program. And we are about to launch these new standard operating procedures, these new templates, the new hiring guides, all of the things that I've been talking about that you need. And so for the next 48 hours from the launch of this episode, we are giving you a huge amount, 50% off the normal price of Birdcage certified. That is freaking huge. If you're listening outside this window, maybe, I don't know, send us a DM to @Birdcage Angel Advisors on Instagram. While we probably can't match the massive discount that we are giving right now, there may be another offer that we can unlock for you. So that, try it out. But I want you to imagine yourself in 3 months from now. You are opening your calendar and you are finally seeing order instead of chaos. Your clients are respecting you. Your income is steady and it is growing and you have a business that you're proud of. Now, go back to yourself, because the only thing between you and that version of your business is the choice that you're about to make right now or in the next 48 hours. If you want to claim this offer and you want to become part of our Birdcage certified, which, by the way, once you go through this program, you get certification, and that's also who we outsource any overflow. So you potentially have the option to make money pretty much straight away from us when you finish this program. Go into the show notes, check out the code, and let's freaking do this. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I hope to see you inside Birdcage certified. But if all you've taken away from this is the knowledge that you can have the business that you want. You can travel. You can have your family involved. You can have the time off that you want. You can make the money that you want. You can have the happy clients that you want. You can have all of those things. And in a relatively short amount of time, it's simply up to you, and it's simply up to your actions that you take from this point forward.